I love it. We're going to talk about that. Folks, we're going to talk about global economy and the markets today. We have an expert in the house, David Rosenberg, who has a article he writes every morning, Breakfast with Dave. We got a lot of things to talk about, many things going on. I mean, I got these 11 stories I'm going through. It's like sometimes you want Mondays to be stacked with a lot of stories, but today's a Wednesday with a lot of stories that broke last night. Let me go through a couple of them for you. Number one, just at 4:25 this morning, less than 5 hours ago, 3 ships were hit. 2 of them were seized by Iran. One of them is Panamanian ship. The other one is a Greek ship. And they've been seized by Iran. And apparently the third one, they're trying to figure out where it's from. They don't know yet. Maybe we'll break it when the story breaks, and we'll share it with you as well. We got to talk about that. Tariffs. The president said a few things about tariffs, saying he will remember the companies that don't seek tariff refunds. And a lot of people are saying, wait a minute, what does that mean? People have some questions. We'll talk about it. Trump encourages companies not to seek tariff refunds. UPS and FedEx have began filing for tariffs refunds. A lot to talk about there. Tim Cook, moving on. And, I want to say Steve Jobs passed away in 06. Can you verify? No. 11. Was it 11?
I think so.
11, yeah. And so he's been on there, and when he passed away, Apple was worth $100 billion. Now it's worth a few trillion. And now they have a new CEO. So there's a lot of ruckus. Some people are excited. Some people are not. I like Tim Cook. I know a lot of people have some criticism on him, but we'll talk about Tim Cook as the new CEO, Tim Cook leaving and the new CEO coming in. And the new CEO, you can't find a lot on him. You know, he sounds like a pretty solid guy, but we'll see. We'll talk about him as well. Virginia, lots going on with Virginia. It's a story that broke. Virginia voters approved Democrats' redistricting plan, giving the party a midterm election boost. So we'll see what happens there. Next story is Trump confronts Xi. Apparently there's a mysterious gift that was sent to Iran in a cargo ships. And markets trying to find out what's in that gift. Was it a $100 gift card to Amazon? Was it like maybe, some Chinese? I don't know what it is. Everybody's trying to find out. They're speculating. We won't speculate. We will talk about it. Maybe we'll do a little bit of speculating. Kevin Warsh was out there at his, when he was at the confirming hearing, right? Am I saying it correctly? Mm-hmm. And there was some couple fiery moments, and he said something where, he said, look, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm not taking this job because of, I think Elizabeth Warren was pushing him, if I'm not mistaken. And then Anthropic CEO went to the White House. Why did he go to the White House? He could have gone to Toronto. He could have gone to different places. Chose to go to White House. What's the outcome? What's the conversation about? Kash Patel yesterday and what's his name? Todd Blanche were talking about this thing called SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, and what the FBI found out. And then, Cash was pushed on a couple things having to do with it was a story that came out and drinking and all this stuff, and Cash pushed back. It was pretty intense. Newsworthy. It's good for TV. And so we'll talk about that. Jet fuel. Few stories about the jet fuel that's actually a real thing that's going on. Lufthansa, which I used to fly on a lot when I lived in Germany, Lufthansa planning to cancel 20,000 short-haul flights to save jet fuel. 20,000 short-haul flights to save on jet fuel. And that's not just the only story. United Airlines slashing 2026 forecast as fuel costs surge. And that story leads to the next one. What a looming jet fuel shortage could mean for summer travel. Will people travel less? Will they travel more? Who knows? Andy Jassy, there's a clip that came out telling Gen Z that if you want to be successful, you have to pay your dues first. How dare he say something like that? Isn't that offensive? Don't you find that a little bit offensive, David? Shouldn't they get it? Shouldn't they be entitled to just a $200,000 salary day one when they graduate? How dare a CEO of a multi-trillion-dollar company who is super wealthy telling others you have to pay your dues first? Give me a flippin' break. That's disrespectful. And then at the same time, story comes out saying that Gen Z would prefer GLP-1 as benefits instead of PTO. And if you offer GLP-1 as benefits instead of PTO, we would like that. That would make us more attractive to want to work for a company. And so what does Amazon announce on the same exact day? That they officially are selling GLP-1 weight loss programs, promising fast, convenient access. This is a CNBC story. We'll get into that as well. And then I got one other one if we get to it. Who knows if we got the time at the end. At this point, if we have to cover all these stories, we're going to be here for about 6 hours. So brace for impact. So having said that, before we get into the podcast, I want to share something with you guys because a lot of people started asking about it and it's becoming more and more a topic that's coming up. We don't do any major sponsorships on the podcast. You won't see us doing a podcast and announcing 7 sponsors. We haven't done that yet. We're talking to some big companies we'll entertain and have that. We have some things that we'll invest in. And if we do, we'll talk about it. There's certain companies I invest in. I'll gladly talk about it. But when it comes down to the Vol Conference, if there's one thing that I can tell you, it's 12,000 people in one room this year in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand Arena. And a lot of business owners want to get in front of these qualified customers. So Rob, I don't know if you have a pitch deck for, go on that real quick if you could. Go on that if you could, and go to the sponsorship all the way at the top. Yeah, if you can click on that. It explains, go a little bit lower. I don't know if the slides are there or not. Go a little bit lower, 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 lower. Keep going lower. Keep going lower. That one right there if you could. So if somebody on the title sponsor side, your logo would be on the MGM. Go to the next slide if you could. So you can find out which of these you can have your small business owner, small business in front of while the customers are coming through and taking a look at the event. Keep going, Rob. You could be on stage. There could be videos. Keep going, Rob. Just keep going every second. You could be on the app while people are going on there. Manual that's going to go to 12,000 folks. And then if you want to play the clip, and then we'll start the podcast. Go for it, Rob. Here's what it looks like for sponsors at the Vol Conference. Go ahead. There you go. So if you want to learn more about sponsoring there, we're going to put the link below, Rob, for people to be able to learn more about it. Submit your application. If you work for a company saying, I'd like it to be there, go to your CEO, go to your executive team, go to your CMO, share it with them. The pitch deck is there. They can learn more about it. And hopefully we'll see you at the Vol Conference. Having said that, let's get right into it. Rob, I don't see a story about Iran this morning because it just broke. So if you want to pick one of them, this morning at 4:25, Iran's attack at around the Strait of Hormuz, 3 ships, 2 of them they seized. One is a Panamanian ship, one is a ship from Greece that we have different names for them as well, Rob. You can pull it up. Yeah, those are the ships. So while this happened, this morning, if you look at the market oil prices, if you want to go to it, it's up a little bit. It's 91.37. There's not been a negative reaction to this yet. The president came out yesterday, and I believe he said that indefinitely the ceasefire continues indefinitely, but not a date. And so we don't know when it's going to stop. We don't know when is this it, Rob?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go for it. Play this clip, and then we'll get right into it.
So to be clear, you're saying that you need at least the prospects for a signed deal today and tomorrow, or else you would resume bombing Iran.
Well, I expect to be bombing because I think that's a better attitude to go in with. But we're ready to go. I mean, the military is raring to go. They are absolutely incredible. I built the military in my first term. I'm using it now. The military, when I took it over from Barack Hussein Obama, it was so depleted, so sad. And I built it in my first term. You remember those big numbers. You talked to me about it once. That's a lot of money for military. I built it. We did a great job with our military. And we're using it now and rebuilding it too.
We know it's indefinitely. Sean Hannity said, based on some intel, I think, Rob, if you got that clip, that at any point, attack could happen. Go forward, Rob.
And welcome to Hannity. Tonight we start with this Fox News alert. Now, new reporting tonight. Sources telling me that the ceasefire extension in Iran announced by the president, that will be short-lived unless a deal is reached quickly. Now, earlier today, the president announced that American strikes will not yet resume, and he will allow peace negotiations to continue. According to my sources, mostly this was out of respect for the Pakistani mediators and as a final push for peace for the war-torn Iranian people. The president is also giving more time to Iran's regime to attempt to coordinate and actually communicate with each other.
Tom, what do you think is going on here?
So what I think is going on is the president is doing what he always does. Well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. This is what I think, maybe I won't. I think this is literally a day-by-day ceasefire. He's trying to keep them unbalanced. And unfortunately, they said that Vance was pulled back. I guess he's not going to the next, the previous public what did they say? Previously, they'd made a public statement about what the next negotiation would be. And so that's the one where we can see them all at the table and we see the media talking about it. But there's things going on behind closed doors. I think Trump's trying to keep them off balance. I think he's trying to get a deal done. I think Witkoff is working in the background. But the public, everybody sits at the big, beautiful table and everything. That's not happening tomorrow, Thursday, and Vance was pulled back.
There you go. David, your thoughts?
Well, the question is, who are the Americans talking to? Like, who's the Iranian delegation and who's in charge in Iran right now? Because my sense is that it's not the clerics, it's the IRGC, and they are definitely hardened. So, my thoughts are this. I think the bombing campaign is over. I think that Trump pays attention to the stock market, and I think he's paying attention to the public opinion polls, and I think he has to take note of the fact that his MAGA base is starting to deteriorate in terms of the support for the war. So I think he's looking for an off-ramp, and I think that we're just further in this age of disinformation. It's not just the Iranians, but it's also, what we're hearing out of Truth Social. I mean, we were bombarded with no fewer than 7 messages from his social media account last Friday, and next thing you know, the Dow was up 1,000 points. It's hard to know where this leads. I think that I agree that I think Trump is looking for an off-ramp. We don't know what sort of deal. What sort of deal are we really expecting? Because the Iranian list of demands and the U.S. list of demands, there's no overlap. And as I go through this in my head, I'm there thinking that Trump, I don't think he can bomb anymore. I think it's a classic case of Einstein's definition of insanity. Like, where's the bombing? What's it going to accomplish that it hasn't accomplished? Right now, what Iran has found out is that it has an economic engine that it can stranglehold the world through the Strait. I think a lot of us already knew that because it's not the first time this has happened, but on this scale. So you have a situation where, as you mentioned about the strikes by Iran on those ships in the Strait, they're demonstrating that they're still in control. And the U.S. still has this blockade.
But does this break the ceasefire by them attacking those 3 ships? I mean, if you're talking ceasefire,
that's really up to Trump, right? You would think that it would break the ceasefire. You would think that Hezbollah, which wasn't mentioned, I think just sent a few rockets into northern Israel. Did that break the ceasefire? So this is almost very loose definitions. It's clear to me, firstly, that Trump wants an off-ramp. We just don't know who he's talking to, who's in charge in Iran, and what any deal is going to look like. Because how can we walk away from this war with the Iranians still having those 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium? And how do we walk away with Iran not abandoning its nuclear ambitions? I don't really know how Donald Trump is going to wiggle his way out of this. I think in the end, what he wants to do is walk away and declare victory on his terms. And then the Iranians are going to declare victory on their terms. And my biggest concern is, do we just end up back where we were with Barack Hussein Obama and the deal that he struck in 2015? Do we just end up right back there? And that's all this damage.
Are you speculating, or you're thinking
I'm
we're going to end up there where we're going to
I'm always
$20 billion?
I'm always scenario building. There's a wide range of outcomes, but you have to have a base case scenario. The thing is that Trump is under a lot of domestic political pressure. I think he's coming under some pressure in his own party. We have the midterm elections, all these things that Iran doesn't have to worry about. And then we have to consider all along, how we've come to this place. And this isn't like a war over land. This is a war over radical ideology and fanaticism. This is a different sort of war. When we had the Cold War with Russia, it wasn't really dealing with anybody who was irrational. Khrushchev was not irrational. Now, that wasn't religious ideology. That you could argue that was more economic ideology. But you were dealing at least with rational actors. And this time around, you're dealing with irrational actors, and you're dealing with a regime that has no value on human life, even the human life of their own population, as we've seen. So I think the template you want to look back to, and this is what I would advise the president if I was there, is just, know what you're getting into here. Because from 1980 to 1988, Iran and Iraq fought an 8-year war. Now, Saddam Hussein wanted to create a buffer. You could argue that was partly about land, but it was also about ideology, because it was right after the revolution. And Hussein was very concerned that this radical ideology was going to spread into Iraq. After year 2 of that war, Saddam Hussein actually offered an olive branch to the Ayatollah to end the war, to call for a permanent truce. Iran walked away, and the war lasted another 6 years. Over 500,000 deaths. So that's what we're dealing with right now. So there's a wide range of outcomes. I think that what's obvious to me, I mean, this is now, what is a deadline right now? What's a deadline? Now the deadline is over, and now it's basically, there's no timeline attached. What does that tell us?
What's ideal for you, in your opinion? What you just...
Well, I'm pretty hardcore. I'm in the John Bolton camp. Okay,
really?
Absolutely, because I think that you've got to you've got to finish what you started. What was the goal? The problem I have is that President Trump says, we did achieve regime change. Well, that's a lot of information right there. He's going to say we actually got one of the things that we wanted, which was regime change, but we got a worse regime. And then he says, well, these are more reasonable people than we had before. Well, I don't really think so. And then it's a matter of what people have to know is that it's the Revolution Guard are the ones really in control, and they're hardened. I think that you got to finish what you start. And I think that the ultimate goal was really to get that 60% enriched uranium out of Iranian hands and to permanently end their nuclear ambitions. Now, the reality is that you actually would need to have a new and more peaceful regime to do that. I think that's next to impossible. The question is, because when you think about what the spark was the uprisings that we saw, the popular uprisings back in January. And how do you incentivize? I mean, now you could actually argue that the Iranians were prepared because they killed, let's say the number is 30,000. Now the Iranian population is scared to go out and do it again. And that to me is really, when you're talking about regime change, I think that that always should have been the goal, because when you think about how do we end this nuclear ambition, I think that nuclear bomb in Iranian hands is a danger for the entire world. How do you accomplish that? And then you look at history. How do you change regimes? You don't do it from the outside. You do it from the inside. And what you need to do is you need to get to a place where the army, the regular army, I'm not even talking about the IRGC, I'm talking about the regular army, there's 1 million of them. Now, I don't know, what I'd like to hear is that that's who Wyckoff and Jared Kushner and Vance are talking to. Are there back channels into the actual regular Iranian army? Because when you look at previous revolutions, King Louis XVI, the revolution was successful only when the army turned their back on the king.
That hasn't happened yet.
No, when you look at Nicholas II, okay, it's only when the army realized that their survival was at stake that they abandoned the Tsar.
How do you get there?
Well, I sort of...
Because you gave the weapons to Kurds, they kept it, so it's not like they're passing it to the people.
I like that. I like that idea, but Turkey shot it down. And I mean, there's always risks about having a revolution, and you'll create this political vacuum. And let's face it, Iran is not a homogeneous society. But the thing is that, how do you incentivize the people and the army to turn against the clerics? And to me, that's why, look, the whole notion of bombing power plants and bridges, or even using the strait, the blockade, to block food imports and medical supplies. And then there's all sorts of commotion and noise around, would the U.S. be breaking international law? Well, never mind about all the international laws that the Iranians have broken. But you see, there's just more political pressure on Trump. But, the thing is that, and this is going to sound pretty radical, and I don't want to sound mean. I'm not a mean person. But the question is, how do you incentivize the Iranian people into another uprising, which they did in January, but now they have fear because they know that the guard are going to kill them. I always thought the Kurds were at least a good start. It would be actually a very good distraction to the Revolutionary Guard.
Yeah.
Can Mossad or the IDF get involved? I don't know. They're under a short leash themselves.
They're for sure involved.
But they're also under they're under Trump's control as well. To me, that would be the most effective end game. How it's accomplished, look, I don't claim to be a military expert. I'm an interested observer. But I would say that without regime change, nothing's going to change. And then it's a matter of how you accomplish it. Would you accomplish it through, say, real boots on the ground. Like you would need
Yeah.
you'd probably need like a million troops.
Brandon, what do you think? It'd be interesting. What do you think yourself?
I mean, I agree, and that's why I said a week or two ago, I said that I think they should use an Iran-Contra model. I mean, any revolution that's ever happened, it's been through rebel groups, through militia groups that the CIA or the Mossad type of group helps organize, helps them get together, and helps smuggle weapons to them. But that doesn't exist in Iran. There's no organized militia or rebel group, and that's really how an uprising could actually happen. Like, right now it's just a bunch of people without weapons that get slaughtered by the government when they organize in public. So I agree. There really is no off-ramp with this in terms of changing leadership in an effective way. Like, no matter what, even if you take out the guy who's in charge right now, somebody just like him from the IRGC is going to be put in his place. And until that whole mindset or that whole IRGC regime is gone, then it's the same situation, probably even worse. So even if we do agree to a deal, there's not an off-ramp that exists with the same group. And I just looked it up, actually. 31% of the military is part of the IRGC, but the IRGC does control all the military weapons. So that's what that looks like in that regard. But yeah, it's a bad situation because I don't see what that option is to like totally eliminate it, because it's not like they're in one place. It's not like it's one group of like a small group of people.
But saying you're extending the ceasefire indefinitely, and then these guys break the ceasefire
immediately,
and they're saying we did not. They're saying we're enforcing the law because they're acting as if they created new laws. So because of that, they're enforcing new laws. So they're like, we didn't do anything wrong. We're just kind of doing our part. This is not breaking a ceasefire. But in a way, Iran is trying to say is, look, they're not showing they're real players. Not real players. They're not showing they're ethical players here.
Oh, they're not.
So if that's the case, what do you do? So if his position is, well, Trump wants to get out of this because he's paying attention to the market. Market's doing better. Everything is up. Earnings are coming through really good. Numbers are coming through really good. People are pretty optimistic. The market, I don't know where S&P is today, was at 7,000. And hey, but that's a different story between Main Street and Wall Street. S&P's at 7149 right now. Okay,
Yeah.
up almost 3/4 of a point. So, but if he goes back and attacks, let's just say we hear the news, boom, we're bombing again. What happens to the market? 2 to 3% adjustment?
Yeah,
Oh, it goes back the other way. S&P goes back down to 69.
Yeah. So, but if he's gonna do it, Iran's telling you we're not ethical negotiators.
Right.
This guy who was Obama's, or I don't know, was he Obama's or Clinton's guy in 1996? He says Iran's never been an honest negotiator. They always lie. So what are you gonna do now? You're dealing with somebody that's ethical now? Who knows? But this leads me to the next story while we're talking about this. Trump confronts Xi. Okay, the surprise gift. Is this on the addendum, Rob, or is this on the main story? Main story. Trump confronts Xi as U.S. forces seize Chinese ship carrying mysterious gift to Iran. What do you mean a mysterious gift to Iran? Here's a question when the president's being asked about it. Go for it.
Hurt them militarily. They use the bridges for their weapons, for their missile movements. They're trying to move the missiles because we've obliterated most of their missiles, and they're trying to move their missiles around, even during the ceasefire, which I think was a good thing because we're totally loaded up. We have so much ammo. We have so much of everything that we've, much more powerful than it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. So we've used this to restock, and they probably have done a little bit of restocking. We caught a ship yesterday that had some things on it which wasn't very nice. A gift from China, perhaps. I don't know. But I was a little surprised, because I have a very good relationship, and I thought I had an understanding with President Xi, but that's all right. That's the way war goes, right? But I will tell you that our military is incredible, what we've done. I mean, think of it. In the first 3 days, we took out their entire Navy.
Tom, what do you think's going on here?
Well, he just said we took out their entire Navy. I'd like to know who's shooting at the ships, because supposedly those were those fast boats, or is this a Navy boat? Because supposedly it was ship-to-ship firing that was happening first thing this morning. Number one. Number two is we've known China has been trying to help. China got busted end of last week, sending in, and I gave you the chemical name that we found on that ship, which is basically the raw powder needed to make rocket fuel, to make high volatility explosive that goes off in a constrained manner is a rocket engine. That's what it is. And so they were helping them with that. So the gift from China, they've been trying to enable them. They're not going to put the satellite imagery and sharing satellite coordinates that they shared of the U.S. bases that were located around the Middle East in UAE, telling, hey, here's the aircraft on the ground in UAE, right here, right here, right here. China shared that stuff going back 4 weeks ago. So if something's on a ship, it's either a weapon, and China's been very reluctant to openly share, arms transport. But what were they sending? Rocket fuel. So I think that is still going on. And I think what this is also Trump saying, I think he's talking to Xi. And rather than say to Xi, hey, I know what you're doing, he just casually mentions to the media, yeah, China had a gift over there going for him. And I think he's letting people know how much we know about China's assistant. I think that's, you know how when you want to talk to somebody, Pat, but you don't pick up the phone and call them, you can talk in other ways. And I think he's talking to Xi. We know what you just did. We know what you sent, and we caught it.
What do you think it was?
I don't know. Can you fit one drone into a box and gift wrap it with a ribbon?
You need more than one drone, though.
I'm just, I'm being a little facetious,
Yeah.
but I mean, to be honest, I don't really care what it was. The reality is this. Again, we are in an age of misinformation, and the market says, you're saying this is a headline-driven stock market. But we know that there are two countries that are very powerful that have a vested interest in this war lasting longer and costing America that much more. And one is Russia, one is China. And remember that why it was so important to remove Maduro was because Venezuela at that point was selling sanctioned oil at a discount to China. That's what it was all about. It all comes back down really to China. And China has been supplying these armaments to Iran for a long time, and even during this war. Again, when I talk about misinformation, no, I'm sorry. Iran's military capacity has not been obliterated. It's been seriously impaired. But from what I've been hearing from my sources, we've only destroyed 50% of their drone capacity and 50% of their bombing capacity. So they've been impaired. I'll tell you what the Iranians are probably thinking is that they can outlast Trump. They can outlast Trump. And especially if those reports are true that they've been impaired but not disabled, they believe, and that's what their actions are telling you. And I think that's what we have to, what is the interpretation of what Iran's doing right now? They think they can outlast Trump. And I didn't just say that it's all about the markets, it's also about the public opinion polls. It's also about the polls now showing, we already knew that the House was probably going Democrat, but now the Senate's in play. So you have a Democratic sweep in November. And there's fissures already within the Republican Party. So he has to pay attention to the internal politics, which the regime in Iran doesn't have to worry about. So I believe that they believe that they can outlast Trump. And so, and the reality is that, is anybody surprised that China is helping Iran in this cause, or Russia for that matter?
So
Who's surprised about that?
Yeah, apparently what it is it's missile-related chemicals is what they're speculating was in there. Missile-related chemicals, according to Washington Times, is what was in the gift. Brandon.
Yeah, and this is why it's such a shame that the Supreme Court did what they did with tariffs, because I don't think it's a coincidence that China's feeling bold like this, where they could do something that they know Trump would be upset about, that they know would be considered, possibly a hostile action when Trump's biggest lever, biggest tool against them was taken away. And this is a unsettling thing. And, there's a time for like the last 30 years where countries wouldn't dare to do something like this, but now China's kind of feeling our weakness, it looks like. I mean, the Center for, was it CSIS, Center for Strategic International Studies, did a report showing that it would be 2 weeks that we would run out of weapons if we were to have a conflict in the South China Sea right now. We used 40% of our THAAD missiles in the first 16 days of the Iran conflict, and it's going to take until end of 2027 for us to restock that. So, like, we have the technology, we have money, we have but not the supplies for something like this. So I think China's kind of poking us, testing us with this. This is like, that's a bold thing for them to do. I know they've been going back and forth with basic things, but to send long range missile stuff to Iran, that's a.
Who is this from? It's this Liveman. U.S. found Chinese gift for Iran. Trump after ship carrying missile chemicals seized in Hormuz. Beijing rejects claim. Trump said that China is possibly providing Iran with lethal aid or weapons or move that would test a U.S. red line. The development comes days after U.S. military seized an Iranian vessel with Chinese chemical missile shipments.
So it's like they're seeing what they could get away with,
Are you surprised, though, with China? I don't know if I'm surprised. I don't know if I'm sitting there saying I'm surprised with them doing this, because
what they do 20 years ago, though? No.
But think about what they're stronger as well. But the reality of it is, look what we've done to China. Mm-hmm. Just think what America's done to China the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So you were getting your stuff from Venezuela. That's gone. That discount is gone. Mm-hmm. you were getting what percentage of your oil out of Iran? I don't know what the number is. It's a massive number they're getting from Iran. Okay. And so now that's been locked up. You're not happy about that, and they were giving it to you as a discount.
And the Panama Canal is part of Venezuela.
And C.K. Hutchinson is who owns Panama Canal, the 43 ports, whatever it is, 2 or 3 of them that are the main ones in Panama on both sides. Now, you mean to tell me you lost that because the Panama government said you don't have any jurisdiction here, and then now they're suing them to say, now you lose that chokehold for America if you wanted to really piss off America and say, don't F with us because I'm going to destroy your Panama Canal and I'm going to mess with... That's now gone. So one by one, so you know what would you do if you were Chinese?
Anything you can to...
That's what I'm saying. So if you're cornering me and I'm China, I'm sitting there saying, oh, you want to do this? I have to make sure Iran makes it. I have to make sure I'm on Iran's side. So then what other leverage are you going to have? Because China's going to say, you need my minerals. You still don't have Greenland.
Or refineries in the U.S., which that would give us the ability to have those too.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting, but I'm not surprised that China says, no, that wasn't us. And 2, they're testing their limits to see what they can get in there.
Yeah.
Okay, because guess what happens? What's the worst case scenario with the Strait of Hormuz that happens to China? What is the worst thing that can happen to China in regard to Strait of Hormuz?
That just never...
We control it, and we control Karg Island.
Bingo. If
Yes,
U.S. controls Karg Island and we control Strait of Hormuz, what the hell are you talking about? Now, that's not the Western Hemisphere. That's what?
Yeah, Eastern Hemisphere.
That's the part where China... There's no way in the world. China can control Iran. China can control America if we take control.
Right.
So this is a very rough place for China. Your thoughts?
Well, firstly, I'll come back to what I said before. Who has the staying power? What we know is that China stockpiled a hell of a lot of oil ahead of this. I don't know how China even had an inkling. Xi Jinping was well prepared for the tariff war. And it looks though he was even prepared for this Iranian war. And you know, when they say that Xi Jinping is playing chess while the other leaders of the world are playing checkers, I actually think that they're right. The staying power, they stockpiled many months worth of oil. So I'm not worried about a chokehold on China unless the administration is thinking that we're going to actually keep it closed for 3 or 6 months. Okay. The other part of it is that as the United States was turning its back on the clean energy file, the one country in the world that was pursuing it aggressively was China, where basically, so we can talk about all the oil that China needs and needs from Iran, but half their energy comes from clean energy. And they've stockpiled a lot of oil. Now, there's a time when there's going to be a real choke point on the Chinese economy if this continues, but I think that it would take at least 3 months if you're talking about trying to bring China to its knees. The question is, does Donald Trump have 3 months more? You want to talk about taking over Karg Island? Look, you're talking about a situation where the whole world will face massive constraints. You talked about jet fuel before. We're just in the early stages of the airlines either canceling flights or actually just not flying as much. That's a huge impact on domestic travel and tourism and internationally. Isn't the United States about they're hosting the that soccer championship, right?
Olympics.
Do you see? Yeah,
World Cup.
Yeah, the World Cup. Well, do you hear what the hotel companies are saying that they're slashing their rates by 50%? So,
what's your point, though?
My point is that that the United States has a much lower, a much, I guess, higher threshold, or for pain. What I mean is that in an election year, and a lot at stake, how much pain are Americans? And I'm not talking about the markets, okay? The S&P is not GDP. And you could say that things are looking okay right now. We got the retail sales number. Well, guess what? Right in the middle of a $30 billion incremental increase in tax refunds, and all that money got spent last month. But that's going to wear out in the next couple of months. We'll see the emperor disrobed. The question comes down to who's got the staying power. And that's, I guess, we can either agree or disagree. I think that China, I think probably even Iran, has longer staying power than the Americans do.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And I'll tell you why. I'll agree in one area and I'll push back, and I want you to push back on me, on what I'm going to say. I want to hear your... So what do you think about the fact that Iran is using $400 to $500 million every day in oil? That's $12 to $13 billion a month. And they, some reports are coming and saying they can go 2 more weeks. Some are saying max 6 more weeks with that income coming in, and the country's in shambles. So the people are starting to get frustrated and the people are getting tired of it. The opposing argument to that is World Cup starts when? Rob, when does the World Cup start? What's the first date? And by the way, the FIFA president came out and said, I don't know if you saw this or not, that Iran will definitely be in the World Cup. Okay, so Iran will be competing in the world. You know, that whole story was like, they're not, they're going to, they are. So they are, okay? World Cup starts June 11th. Today is what, April 23rd, 22nd? What is today?
22nd.
22nd.
6 weeks.
That's, my timeline is he's got 6 weeks. So my timeline, you either have to fix it in 6 weeks, or you have to put a ceasefire for how long? From June 11th to July 19th. Why July 19th? July 19th is the championship match. So then you got to go back at it. And then do you really want to go into the midterms? So there's two ways. For us, you're right, World Cup and midterms is there. On the other side, for Iran, what are you going to do when all of a sudden? So if the tipping point from my end is if the Iranians go in the streets again and families are struggling financially, payment, all of that stuff, that is chaotic. What we did learn, and again, you know Reza Pahlavi, who was the fellow that's going around, and we've had him on a few times, and we're probably not on the best terms today because, you know, I called him out on a few different things. Here's what we did learn. How much influence, when he said he has, with the military turning against IRGC, how much of that have we seen?
We haven't seen any of it.
That's a problem.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, that was my, you know, initial soliloquy. That to me, when you're asking me before about, you know, what would be something really good, that would be really good. Because I think ultimately it will take the army. So far, the army hasn't turned against the regime, and maybe that'll change. It'll change, you know, it's just like I talked about the history. When does the army turn? The army turns when it sees its own survival at stake, and that comes from the uprising of the general population, which we saw in January. I imagine that perhaps Donald Trump thought that maybe we're going to see this again, but they're scared and they're not armed. And then it'll come down, I think, to what the army does. I fully agree. The point I'm making before is this. I think that Iran has more staying power. And we have to acknowledge that it does, because this was supposed to be a 4 or 5 week war. It started in late February.
Standalone or would help?
What?
Standalone to have staying power or would help?
No, and I'm saying that staying power, it's a matter of that, what I said before is that Donald Trump has to pay attention to the political calendar. And I think he's starting to. And he's, you know, I don't know, is he going to buckle to domestic political pressure and now within his own party? I mean, these are the things that Iran doesn't have to worry about.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that from what I'm hearing is that Iran, despite what we hear from the White House, their munitions have not been totally destroyed, not been obliterated, and that they have probably still 50% capacity, which is a lot. We were told at the beginning this is going to be a 4 or 5 week war. That was back at the end of February. So we have to acknowledge that it's, although there's no bombing right now, the war is ongoing. And what I'm saying is this, a little bit of history yet again. 1930s. When you look at the Gallup polls in the 1930s, 90% of the American public was against the U.S. joining the Allies in the fight against the Nazis. When did that flip? When did it flip? 1941 with Pearl Harbor. I don't even want to go there. What will be the event that would flip public opinion, right? And public opinion matters in a democracy. Well, we're talking about Iran, and we're talking about China. We even talked about Russia, which comes out a winner from all this as well. These are not exactly democracies. And my sense and my concern is that Iran has more staying power in terms of time than a lot of people recognize. And that's a problem, because Donald Trump doesn't have a lot of time, because we're going to shift our focus the next few months towards the midterms. So he's under tremendous political pressure. Well, what, you know, all of a sudden out of the blue, I mean, just a few weeks ago, we're talking about we're going to go and they're going to bomb the power plants and we're going to bomb the bridges. And of course, to a lot of internal political pressure, not just global pressure, because, you know, I mean, people are going to die, right? Civilians are going to die. And that's the one thing that, you know, Americans today, they can't stomach that. But that would be, when you think about it, how else do we incentivize the Iranian population
There's one
to
way
rise
to
up?
do it. There's one way to do it. Are you familiar with the Rewards for Justice program?
No.
Okay, so if you want to pull up the Rewards for Justice program, go to a place that explains what it is. Maybe go to, so the Rewards for Justice program. You ever hear when they're like, we'll give you $25 million for somebody that finds Maduro and tells us where it's held? We'll give you that whole Rewards for Justice program, right? Guess what? How much have we spent so far? $51 billion, give or take, so far, all right? If I break $1 billion into 10 million, how many $10 million payments can I make? How many? 100. Right? 10 million, billion is what? 100. If I break it into 5 million, how many can I make? 200. If I break it into 2.5 million, how many can I make? 400. So instead of spending $50 billion, why don't you increase your rewards for justice to $1 billion? It's going to save us a shit ton of money. Instead of you going to 200 billion, let's find the top 200 military leaders that are to IRGC and tell them, hey man, here's what's going to happen. Leak the info, get it in front of them. You guys are each going to get $5 million rewards for justice based on these 3 criteria. 1, you flip now. 2, you do that next. And 3, it's not hard to come up with the next 3 requests. And each one prompts a payment, or each one does something. It's not like we don't have this program right now. This is kind of a quiet, low-key, underground, CI type of a thing. Some of these guys are going to sit there and say, okay, I got 7 kids, I got 2 wives, I'm a military this, the top 50 leaders were killed, they killed Khamenei, they're about to kill Hassan, they killed all these other guys, who the hell am I? They're going to kill me next. You'll be able to flip 200 military leaders for $5 million a pop. Now what are they going to do? So go, you know how we have the general of the army, we have sergeant major of the army, we have Marines, we have Air Force, we have Navy, one by one, and find a way to get that messaging to them. Remember back in the days, the way the CIA would recruit people. Did you see that commercial on CIA on how to leak into? Was it a commercial that we did to Russia or vice versa? Did you see that one commercial?
I think it was China.
Yeah. Do you? That's right. It was China. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Have you seen this one? So China did a commercial. CIA launches Mandarin videos to recruit Chinese spies. That's the one. So go ahead and play that clip. By the way, can you do me a favor, Rob? Go back if you could. Go back if you could, because I want to know one of them, what YouTube channel it's from. CIA has a YouTube channel. So that's there. Just so everybody knows, it's not even hidden anymore. So CIA launched a commercial to try to get spies from China. Please go and play this clip, Rob, if you could.